Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today we will be reviewing the AAEP lameness scale as it pertains to farriers. If you're new here, a quick hello. My name is Julia Walker with Grey Duck Forge, and I make unofficial review videos for the main topics that come up on farrier certification exams. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more farrier education videos in the future, and be alerted when new ones are published. With that being said, let's dive into this topic. So what do we need to know about the AAEP lameness scale? There are 5 levels of lameness that we need to be able to recognize. 2 goals we should have would be first to be able to list the 5 grades of lameness in order, and second to be able to say what grade of lameness a given horse is based on the description. A quick reminder before we get too far into this topic, lameness is a change in gait or stance due to pain. It's just an important definition to be aware of. Lastly, as the grade of lameness increases, so does the amount of lameness. So higher number means more lameness. This is a 5. This horse galloping here is a 1. Cool. So let's start with grade 1, or the least amount of lameness. The definition we get from our book is up at the top, saying, difficult to observe, not consistently apparent regardless of circumstances. So some examples of what that could look like are listed here, such as the occasional off step, something random that a horse owner sees and gets nervous over, or something that showed up for a day but was never seen again. Grade 2 lameness is defined as difficult to observe at a walk or in trotting a straight line, but consistently apparent under certain circumstances. So to remember it, for grade 2 lameness, you have to think twice to try and figure out what specific circumstance is causing the lameness. For example, this could be a horse that looks great out in the pasture but struggles to canter to the right under saddle. It could be a horse that usually looks good but sometimes hobbles on tight turns, specifically on concrete floors. Or perhaps a horse that rides well but always pins their ears and bucks after landing a jump. Grade 3 lameness is defined as consistently observable at a trot under all circumstances. So that's pretty self-explanatory. To remember it, remember 3 being like trace in Spanish, and trace kind of sounds like trot, so 3, trace, trot. Cool. A horse that is grade 3 lame might bob its head every time it trots, no matter what footing it's on and whether or not there's a rider. It could also be a horse with a shortened stride on the hind end or a limited spring in their step on a hind limb whenever the horse goes at a trot or faster. This grade of lameness should be pretty easy for a vet to find at a lameness exam. Grade 4 lameness is obvious lameness, so marked nodding, hitching, or a shortened stride. So now we're talking about a horse that is lame at the walk. If it helps, the walk is a 4-beat gait, corresponding to grade 4 lameness. This could look like a lot of things, such as a pony that bobs its head when it's walking behind the herd out in a pasture, or a horse that drags a hind leg even at the walk, or a horse that constantly trips and stumbles because her knees can't lock no matter the speed she's going or the footing she's on. Lastly, we have grade 5 lameness, which is minimal weight bearing in motion and or at rest, or the inability to move. So the most lameness a horse could experience is not being able to stand on a given leg, or not being able to stand at all, or not being able to walk to get a drink or a bite of food. This is the most likely form of lameness to constitute an emergency, and could include a lot of things, such as, but not limited to, having an abscess, having an attack of laminitis and not being able to walk, having a broken bone and laying down unable to rise, or hopping off of a hind leg so that it doesn't touch the ground when it's moving, from injuring a joint after slipping on the ice. So let's do some examples. First up, we've got a horse that the vet thinks has quote-unquote navicular. It's a 12-year-old quarter horse with super flat feet that looks fine when he's walking, but has a little head bob at the trot. The owner says the pain blocked to the foot, which led the vet to say navicular. What grade of lameness does this horse have? If you said grade 3, you would be correct. Grade 3 is always observable at the trot. Remember, 3, trace, trot. Next, we have a horse that the owner believes must have tweaked something while she was walking on the churned-up frozen ground a few days ago. She tells you a long story, thrilling you with the details of all the maladies she expected her horse had after hours of observation crammed into a single evening, and her shock at finding the horse totally normal the next day. This horse is a 4-year-old Morgan mare with gorgeous feet. You watch her walk and trot on concrete and in the arena, and you see no lameness. What grade is this? The answer is grade 1 lameness, not consistently observable. Then we have a mare who won't trot specifically on hard-packed footing. It's an older mare whose rider is almost done with high school. and the girl likes to take her horse to the park next door with all the barn ladies, all of whom are in their 70s. At the park next door, they like to trot up the big hill, and she has noticed that her mare will happily jog up the hill if she's in the grass, but will refuse to go faster than a walk if she's on the packed gravel trail, even if she's getting left behind by the other horses. In the arena, the horse is sound at the walk, trot, and canter. What kind of lameness is this? This horse is only lame under certain circumstances, so that constitutes grade 2 lameness. Remember, for grade 2 lameness, you have to think twice to figure out what specific circumstances are causing it. How about a horse that's walked funny ever since his new owners picked him up? It's an older gelding that a married couple bought at an auction for their kid. The dad used to be into horses when he was younger, but it's been a long time. This gelding has a knee the size of a cantaloupe and hobbles around a bit at the walk. He's happy to carry the kid around the paddock at a walk, so he can do his job for now. What kind of lameness is this horse? So, this guy is lame at the walk, so he has a grade 4 lameness. Remember, the walk is a 4-beat gait, so when they're always lame at the walk, it's grade 4. Another example, this mare just never seemed to fully recover from an injury to her superficial flexor tendon a couple years ago. This is a 9-year-old unraced thoroughbred mare that's able to be ridden somewhat normally, but not as hard as she was ridden before the injury when she was training for upper-level eventing. If this mare gets ridden 6 or 7 days a week instead of 5, or she canters for an extended period of time, she shows up a little lame and needs to take some time off. What grade of lameness does our scale give for this horse? So our scale doesn't account for career-limiting injuries or a horse that falls short of athletic perfection. So for this horse, despite the relative seriousness of this persistent lameness and the fact that it was a serious downgrade from where she was before, it is only observable under certain conditions, making this, in my opinion, a grade 2 lameness. This is because it is not consistently observable at any gait, but only when she has worked too hard. Lastly, we have our final example. This horse belongs to some new horse owners who keep him in a muddy paddock filled with some mid-sized to large rocks and some construction waste sprinkled throughout. When you show up to trim his feet, he's pointing one of his front feet in the air while standing out in the pasture. The owner chuckles and tells you that he learned a new trick yesterday, where he waves at people when he sees them. They halter him, and he hops around until he's standing on the driest and flattest part of the paddock. You pick up the foot and find a big rock shoved into the frog and sole that's holding the heels apart. So you set the foot down, you walk back to your truck and grab your driving hammer to knock it out, and on your stroll you try to remember which grade of lameness this horse has. What's your prediction? So this horse has the maximum amount of lameness because he's holding a foot up in the air. He's non-weight bearing, so that constitutes a grade 5. Nice work. So to review, this information is described in Butler's P3 on page 680. If you can have the grades of lameness memorized in order, you can always write them down on your scratch paper when you take the exam for the AFA from memory, and then reference that list when the exam asks you a question about a specific grade of lameness. But hopefully you learned some new ways to remember the different grades of lameness today. I also summarized the grades in my own paraphrasing words, so feel free to save this if those words make more sense to you. But with all that out of the way, we have successfully reviewed the AAEP lameness scale. Excellent work. Who knew it would be so tricky to remember 5 things? But hopefully you have some new tools in your toolbox for grading lameness on the go, and can practice this while you're out there on the job. We're going to continue with more videos on pathologies, so I have a tentative map of the topics I want to cover, but it'll take a little bit of refining to know exactly how much information I can put into each video. I typically aim for 10 to 15 minute videos, and some topics can be quickly reviewed while others get broken down, like in today's video, so there will be a little bit of a learning curve there for me. However, I'll aim to start with the most important diseases such as laminitis, navicular syndrome, abscesses, like all that good stuff, and work my way down the list. As always, if you notice any inaccuracies in this video, please shoot us a comment down below. Your feedback is always welcome, and it helps the other viewers out too. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button to let me know, and subscribe for more of the same. Have fun with your studies, best of luck on your exams, and as always, stay tuned for more.